village celebration in Oman. And in the shade of a tree, men of all ages gather to drink coffee, exchange news, and discuss problems. Theirs is a rich and proud culture, and one that has taken on a new and important significance in the last decade. These men, their sons and daughters, live in a country which has become the guardian of the Gulf. Oman is now in the midst of a transformation from a slow society with a subsistence economy to a developed country capable of taking care of one of the world's most precious commodities, oil. Social dislocation is inevitable, but most observers say that Oman will survive with its rich heritage intact and have a promising future. Oman is bounded by two friendly and moderate Arab neighbors, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. But there have been tensions in the past with its neighbor in the southwest, the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen, which has links with the Soviet Union rather than the West. In charge of Oman is Sultan Qaboos bin Said. Oman doesn't have a constitution, a legislature, or any legal political parties. Sultan Qaboos has been in charge since 1970 when he ousted his father. Unlike his father, Sultan Qaboos is accessible to his own people and to the international diplomatic stage. He's dedicated to the careful development of his own country and to protecting the interests of his Western allies. His problem is how to balance the two interests. Today, Oman polices the strategic Strait of Hormuz, as well as offering facilities on the important island of Mizra to the Americans. The Hormuz Strait comprises 12 miles of Omani waters and 12 miles of Iranian waters. The hostility to the west of the fundamentalist Iranian regime, combined with the continuing Iran-Iraq war, threatens the security of the West's most important oil route from the Gulf. This has put the Omanis under great pressure to police their own waters efficiently and thus protect the energy supply of their most important Western allies. Mizra Island, with its strategic airstrip, also figures in Oman's important link with the West. Up until the mid-1970s, it was a British Royal Air Force base. Sultan Qaboos signed a military agreement in 1980 with the United States. The details have remained secret. However, the communique did say the Americans would be allowed access to Omani air and naval facilities in return for economic and security assistance. The Mizra airport is believed to be part of the plan, supplementing important facilities at Diego Garcia. The Sultan of Oman was an important guest at the White House in Washington in April 1983. Behind the pageantry, talks centered on peace in the Middle East. Oman has consistently supported the Americans, including the Camp David peace plan. The Americans see Qaboos as some sort of replacement for the toppled Shah of Iran, who had been their policeman in the Gulf. The Omanis maintain, however, that aligning themselves with the Americans and extending facilities to them does not mean Oman is to become an American satellite. Though the Sultan is pro-Western, he maintains that his primary concern is safeguarding his people and their ancient culture. Oman's history dates back to the 3rd millennium BC. As in many parts of the world, the past is just beginning to be uncovered. It's also a society that is just beginning to catalog its rich heritage. Omanis have always been renowned shipbuilders. The legendary Sinbad is believed to have set sail in a dhow made in Oman, destined for China. The remarkable journey was reenacted in an authentic 9th century Arab dhow in 1981. A crew of sailors from the West and Oman sailed to China. Oman has moved into the modern world faster than any other nation. Just over a decade ago, Muscat, the capital, was closed every night. Gates were locked, and people had to carry lanterns down the street. In the old days, that's the late 1960s in Omani terms, there were only 6 miles of paved road, 3 primary schools, and 1 small mission hospital in the entire country. People who know the Omanis say they are surprisingly cosmopolitan. They're a mixture of Arab clans and descendants of Indian, Baluchis, and African peoples. Today they are all Omanis, Arab-speaking and devoutly Muslim. Like craftsmen everywhere in the world, the weavers, silversmiths, and potters of Oman are an endangered species. But attempts are being made to save the expertise and tradition of the craftsmen. In Nizwa, silversmiths still work to produce the khanjar, an ornately carved dagger worn by many Omanis to symbolize rank and status. At Sur, dhows are built, as they have been for centuries. Although some compromises have been made, the boats are still constructed basically to the same designs, and for the most part, using the same ancient tools. Groves of frankincense in Dhofar. Most people know this aromatic resin was one of the gifts mentioned in the Christmas story. But few know it was as valued as gold or jewels because it was thought to carry prayers up to Allah. The province of Dhofar, shown here in the region close to the Yemeni border, based its economy on frankincense for over 2,000 years. Dhofar's tribal people have had a turbulent history. By the 1950s, Dhofar became infamous as a trouble spot in the region and for the rulers of Oman. March 1957, a power struggle over the control of Oman. The British, still active in the region, intervened to back Sultan Said's control of the whole country. The 60s and early 70s were turbulent ones in Oman. Tribesmen in Dhofar disputed their allegiance to the Sultan of Oman, first the elder and then his son, the current Sultan. Again, Britain supplied equipment and personnel. The Muscat government blamed neighboring Yemen for backing the rebels and saw it as part of a larger regional threat. Today, Dhofari tribesmen are loyal to Sultan Qaboos and patrol their region in his name. Development of the region is a top priority as the government tries to establish once and for all a clear Omani identity. The Sultan's challenge is to change the lives of people like these. Most of Oman's million or so citizens are still rural dwellers or nomadic herdsmen. And most of Oman is desert. Many people live by tending their small herds of livestock, moving from oasis to oasis. The Sultan has decreed that the next generation will be able to choose whether to continue the tradition of their elders or pursue modern careers that will aid Oman's development program. The older generation is already aware that their sons and daughters may abandon old values after they've been to the village school. But it's a change the government has convinced the people they should risk. According to a document called Issues in Development, Oman's prime farmland, where date groves, alfalfa, and limes predominate, can be fitted into a 12-kilometer square. In fact, Oman's cultivated land is spread out like beads on a necklace over 250 kilometers, held by 10,000 small landholders. The introduction of insecticides and a better variety of seeds are a major priority. Oman's future really depends on the government's wise use of its oil wealth. Production started in 1967, and within 10 years supplied 2/3 of the country's income. Oman's oil reserves are nothing like some of her Arab neighbors, but exploited wisely, oil revenue should provide Oman with substantial income until the end of this century. Copper mining and smelting projects are also important to the economy. Copper was mined in ancient times, and this spring copper made a comeback when the mining complex started operating near Sohar, on the site of the ancient mines. Oman will shortly resume copper exports to important Middle East markets, just as it did 5,000 years ago. Again, the revenue from the mineral industry will be invested in the country's new education and medical facilities. Oman has moved into the modern world faster and with fewer crises than many underdeveloped nations. Today, there are 2,000 miles of asphalt roads, 14 government hospitals, and almost 500 state schools. The world will watch with interest as the Sultan tries to balance the interests of his own people against those of his superpower allies. Oman is enjoying a resurgence of prestige on the international stage, both as a moderate Arab country and a strategic Middle Eastern ally to the West. Sultan Qaboos calls this new interest, combined with the country's development program, a new dawn for Oman.